Sophia wandered through the familiar streets of her neighborhood, her mind still tangled in the threads of signs and symbols from the past week. She barely noticed the familiar shops or the clatter of a cafe or the neighbors moving about their routines anymore. Then, almost imperceptibly, something caught her eye, a narrow doorway tucked between two buildings that she had passed a dozen times before. Its wooden frame was weathered, the glass slightly fogged, and the small bell above it jingled faintly as a breeze stirred. She had never seen this door before, yet now it seemed to glow with a quiet invitation, almost humming in a way that she could feel more than she could see. Curiosity prickled at her chest. She hesitated at the threshold, one hand brushing the door frame as though touching it might summon courage. The air smelled faintly of herbs and incense, subtle and grounding, and a warmth radiated from within that felt strangely familiar, like the echo of a memory that she hadn't yet lived. Something whispered in her mind, not words but a gentle nudge, that she should go inside. And for a moment, doubt tried to pull her back. I don't even know what this place is. I have no reason to go in. But the pull was persistent, and her steps, almost on their own, crossed the street. The door opened with a soft creak, and Sophia stepped into the store, feeling the faint hum of unseen energy wrapped around her. She wasn't sure what she would find, only that somehow she had been called here, and in the stillness of that moment she felt the first hint that she was no longer alone on her journey. Sophia lingered near a shelf lined with worn books and small, curious objects, her fingers brushing absentmindedly over crystals and carved figurines. The store felt alive, quiet, yet vibrating with a presence that she couldn't name. First time here? A soft, warm voice asked. Sophia startled, glancing up to see an older woman standing a few feet away. Her hair was silver, pulled back loosely, and her eyes held a depth that seemed to see straight into Sophia's soul. There was a gentle calm in her posture, a certainty that felt grounding in a way Sophia hadn't realized she needed. I I think so, Sophia replied, her voice quieter than she intended. The woman smiled, not in curiosity, but in recognition. You've been walking your path for a while now, haven't you? She said. Her voice was like honey over stone, soft, warm, yet somehow resonant with authority. The feathers, the mirrors, the verses. You're not alone, Sophia. Not ever. Sophia blinked, startled. She hadn't said a word about her experiences. How could this stranger know? Yet the words didn't frighten her. Instead, a flicker of relief stirred in her chest, mingled with the faintest glimmer of hope. The woman took a careful step closer, her hands folded gently in front of her. The universe has a way of speaking, especially when hearts are ready to listen. Sometimes it sends guides, sometimes signs, sometimes both, but it never is silent, and you are never alone. Sophia's throat tightened, and for the first time in days she felt a weight lift, a tiny space opening in her chest where worry and fear had lived. She wanted to speak, to ask, to understand, but the elder's gaze was patient, allowing silence to breathe alongside them. And in that quiet, the first real sense of connection began to grow. Sophia was not merely wondering, she had been called. The elder woman gestured towards a small nook at the back of the store, a corner Sophia had barely noticed. A low table was surrounded by mismatched chairs, soft cushions scattered across the floor, shelves lined with aged books, jars of dried herbs, and small crystals created a sense of quiet sanctuary, as though the room itself had been waiting for this meeting. Would you like to sit? The woman asked, her tone gentle and inviting. Sophia hesitated for a moment and then nodded, following her to a chair near the window. She sank into the cushion, feeling the tension in her shoulders ease slightly. The warm light spilling through the glass bathed the space in a honeyed glow, and for a moment the chaos of her thoughts stilled. The elder woman poured 2 cups of tea, the aroma of chamomile and something faintly floral filling the air. She handed one to Sophia, who accepted it with shaking fingers, grateful for the simple act of care. Thank you, Sophia murmured, her voice soft. You're welcome, the elder replied, sitting into her own chair. Sometimes the first step is simply to be seen, to be witnessed, and that is what you are here for today. Sophia sipped the tea, letting the warmth spread through her. The store, the tea, the elder's calm presence. It all felt like a bridge, connecting her own fear and confusion to something steadier, more enduring. For the first time in days, Sophia felt the knot of anxiety loosen. The world outside could wait. Here, in this quiet space, she could breathe, listen, and begin to understand that the journey that she was on was not hers alone. The elder took a slow sip of her tea, eyes crinkling in thought. You know, I remember when I first began to notice the signs, she said softly. Feathers, mirrors, verses that spoke too clearly to be coincidence. At the time, I thought I was imagining things, or worse, that I was losing my mind. Sophia listened, holding her own cup tightly. The familiarity of her words struck her. The stranger had lived the very confusion and fear she was feeling now. But it wasn't losing my mind, the elder continued. It was an initiation, a quiet, persistent awakening. The universe has ways of nudging us, testing us, drawing us closer to the truth we are meant to discover. Every symbol, every synchronicity is a call to pay attention, to rise above fear and trust what is unfolding. Sophia's eyes flicked to the notebook she kept so diligently. All those feathers, all those verses. Could they really be a part of something larger? The elder's gaze softened. I faced many of the same doubts you do now. I questioned every sign, every flash of intention, but slowly I learned to see the thread connecting them, to recognize the guidance even when I didn't understand the meaning. She paused, letting the words settle. And that is what you were beginning to do. Recognize the thread. You are not alone, Sophia. Not in your awakening, not in your longing, not in the fire that burns between you and your flame. A faint warmth bloomed in Sophia's chest, mingling with a flicker of hope. She realized that she wasn't just navigating these experiences blindly. She was stepping into a lineage of seekers, of those who had learned to listen and trust that the subtle language of the universe. The elder reached across the table, her hand hovering near Sophia's in a gesture of reassurance. Hold on to that hope, she said gently. Even the smallest spark of trust can guide you through the darkest nights of the soul. You are at the beginning of something profound, and you are capable of walking it step by step. Sophia swallowed, letting the words sink in. For the first time in days, the weight pressing on her chest lifted slightly. Maybe, just maybe, she could navigate this path, not alone, but with guidance, with wisdom, and with a quiet assurance that she was exactly where she needed to be. Sophia sat quietly, the warmth of the tea fading but leaving a gentle comfort in its place. Her gaze wandered over the shelves, the soft light spilling across the objects that seemed suddenly alive with meaning. The elder's words echoed in her mind. You are not alone. Every sign is a thread connecting you to the truth that you are meant to discover. Sophia traced the edges of a feather she had tucked into her notebook, remembering the small persistent signs that had filled her days. Mirrors, spirals, verses, and symbols she had once questioned or dismissed. For the first time, she saw them not as random fragments, but as invitations, each one a subtle nudge guiding her toward awareness and understanding. The fear that had pressed against her chest in recent days now seemed less oppressive, tempered by a quiet reassurance that she would follow the path, even without knowing every step in advance. She thought of Christian, of the flame that burned between them, and the subtle ways that she had left him in dreams, in signs, and in the gentle pull of initiation. Now, with the elder's guidance framing her experiences as part of a larger journey, she felt a fragile but growing hope. I am not alone. I can walk this path. I am beginning to see. Sophia closed her notebook slowly, a small smile curving her lips. The world outside was still uncertain, the journey still unknown, but for the first time in days, she felt a quiet steadiness within herself. She had been given a glimpse of the way forward, and that spark, small, gentle, and persistent, was enough. As she rose from the chair, the elder's eyes followed her with a knowing warmth. Sophia felt the subtle weight of possibility pressing lightly on her shoulders, a reminder that she had begun to step into something larger, and that guidance and hope were not as distant as they once seemed. And for the first time in a long time, Sophia felt that maybe she could face the journey ahead, not with certainty, but with trust, curiosity, and the faint, steady glow of hope.